Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet and of YouTube. Welcome to Jibber Jabber. I am your host, as always, Skajaramas, otherwise known as Tone Shift. With me today, we have about 5 other people besides me. Starting off, going down the list, we have flying off in the corner, observing from afar, contemplating things, Crow.
Hello.
What and next up on our list of people, we have Darkness.
Hello, you fine people of the internet.
Sitting directly across from him, we have the author of the Change series, the author of Soaring on Little Wings, and the co-author of Midi Idiocy Verse Choice, as well as just being a good friend, Tom117Z.
Au revoir, je m'appelle Tom117Z, ça va?
That is quite the hello.
And,
works, I guess.
and rounding out the British corner, we have Lightning Flash.
Hello.
And last but
Welcome to Triple Brit Hour.
and last but certainly not least, we have Hades Shadow 92, who's just kind of looking at all this with a leery eye. Lumina would have joined us, but she wants to savor the rest of her day off, and we just got out of Final Fantasy D6, and I can't really say I blame her. Work's been crazy for her lately, so. Yeah, this is the assortment. Everyone, how's your week been?
I just realized I said au revoir to the bonjour, I think.
More or less okay.
I have no idea what that means either way, so.
Au revoir means goodbye, bonjour means hello. I said them the wrong way around for some reason.
But say, Tom, you're British, not French. There's a very big difference.
Yeah, it's only
My
across the channel.
week was pretty decent.
Very boring.
I say.
Except for I said goodbye instead of hello.
All right, goodbye. Then get out of here, Tom.
You tried
Bye.
this in your.
Bye.
Yeah, how's everyone's week been, eh?
Pretty decent, I say.
Yep. Good.
Mine's been.
Mine's been kind of slow.
So,
Sorry, I dropped
turning that down?
sorry, I dropped a thermos filled with water on the floor.
That's okay.
very good.
Yeah.
Oh my, we
lightning.
keep losing people and then we Oh no.
What?
Brits.
What?
It's all the frickin' Brits.
I mean, I left deliberately, but
Anyway, so.
Hmm.
My week's been pretty good, all things considered. Had a family Dungeons & Dragons session on Wednesday. Just had Final Fantasy D6 a few minutes ago. Been playing video games. Been writing
Nice.
again. Since, the snow is mostly gone now, I can get outside and give my writer's block the old boot. Yep. So, yeah. And let's not even wait around. Let's launch into that first topic, the Final Fantasy D6 recap. Just to make sure the listening audience is aware, whenever we get the chance, myself, Tom, Darkness, Hades, and Lumina Starlight all sit down in a separate chat and play a Dungeons & Dragons style game called Final Fantasy D6. And we just had our 4th session right before beginning recording here of Jibber Jabber. So, yeah. And we've, This particular session opened up with the party no longer hungover from their imbibement of a potent drink referred to as water, which is a tradition in my family, I might add. I don't know if I talked about this last time, but let me just reiterate, even if I did. In the very first D&D campaign I was ever a part of, water was a beverage that will knock you out from even a sip. It is the most powerful drink in that particular campaign setting, and it stuck with the family so much during that first D&D campaign that I just kept using it. It has shown up in every single campaign of mine that happens to be in a fantasy setting and the players ever stop at a bar. It is a tradition. Water must be in my campaigns. Anyways, the following morning, the party kind of goes and heads to the palace to... What is that noise? Sounds like someone's moving their microphone around.
Mine's on the table, so I haven't touched it.
No, either way, either moving it around or brushing against it. Anyways, so
Nope, I'm a distance away.
all right. Well, either way,
Yeah, same
So-
here.
well, the party went to the palace of the plagued city of Marasu, where they've been all 4 sessions so far. Entering into the palace, they found that there was this mess of activity, and they overheard mutterings from the various guards who were going about and trying to organize a response that there had been some sort of attack on one of the northern gates of the city. The party went and spoke with the people in charge of Marasu and learned that, indeed, there had been an attack on one of those gates. A bunch of people infected with the devastating virus and plague that is infecting the city had come to the gates with a wagon, punched through, seemingly with a combination of brute force, magic, and good planning, stole some chocobos from the stables, loaded a bunch of barrels of something unidentified into their wagon, and then took off before the guards could properly muster and rally a counter. And so, considering that in the previous session, fears had been raised that the cultists were trying to poison the water supply of the city with the plague itself to infect everyone, this seemed like a possibility, as they had been seen following the river upstream. So, the party banded together and gave chase, following after these ruffians and asshole cultists. They passed through the city gates and followed the trail they had left in their wake for a good several hours, leading them away from civilization and into the hills and foothills of the Marasan Isle. Notably, they eventually, while following the tracks, passed through a gorge, a canyon of sorts, cliff faces on either side, the river flowing along their left, and they eventually found the wagon that the cultists had been using knocked over on its side, with most of its contents having spilled out, and one of the chocobos missing. Blood smears led to a rock nearby. Neothil, being the curious rangerly person of the group, decided to investigate this rock and saw the mauled corpse of the chocobo there. And then the rock sprouted some snake heads and attacked her. As it so happens, this rock was as it so happens, I'm so happy from all of your salt. It tastes great. This creature that disguised itself as a rock was actually a variation of the Hysnogwin, which is a creature a creature that I invented a ways back by pure chance. I did a little doodle and came up with the Hysnogwin. And, well, this is a variation of the Hysnogwin, where instead of 2 dog heads sticking out of a snail shell with penguin flippers, instead it's 2 snake heads with webbed feet-like flippers and a long snake tail, and instead of a snail shell, it's just a rock that it hides in. A large
1, why? 2, why must you turn something so adorable into something so terrifying?
Well, I mean, regular Hysnogwins can be dangerous, too. They're territorial.
They're cute.
They're cute, yes.
Snake.
Think of it like this, Tom. He's basically pulled a watership down.
Thank you. That's a decent analogy, I suppose. Anyways.
Wow.
But,
I hate you, and I hate Fallen. Fuck you, Fallen.
Fallen popularized the Hysnogwin, and I owe him immensely for that. I showed him the picture that I drew of it before today's session last night, and he was giddy with it. Anyway, so the party engaged in battle with this variant of the Hysnogwin, and soon discovered that melee attacks were next to fucking useless against it. As it so happened, it came with a certain trait that reduced melee damage by half. And they discovered this after multiple rounds of combat of all of them just wailing on their attacks, just bouncing uselessly off of its stone shell. And it didn't help that it had an armor rating of 3, which decreased their melee damage by 3, and then whatever that result was, then got cut in half. So it wasn't taking very much damage. And at one point, when it opened the fight, it actually attempted to grapple Neothil and pull her into the water. It didn't succeed, but it did submerge itself in the water so that it could prep a slow action without risk of being hit. And then when it reemerged, it spit poison all over Alistair, Darkness's character, who was then poisoned as a result, taking plenty of damage every round. There's a bit more back and forth before finally Thanatos got this bright idea that melee attacks aren't doing shit, I'll try some magic. While he was taking a slow action to prepare a stone spell, this Hysnogwin went balls to the walls on Alistair, the guy it had poisoned, and just went to town on him. Bite, 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 bite. Alistair was down to 2 hit points when all was said and done. But luckily,
Well,
last
7,
minute...
doesn't it?
No, 7,
Yeah,
right.
7.
Yeah, but last second, Thanatos' spell goes off, and a large chunk of earth rises out of the soil and pierces the Snogwin, and it is dead because they take double damage from magic.
I killed it dead.
You did. Very much. It was overkill. But yeah, it killed the ambush predator, spent a little bit to heal Alistair up and cure him of the poison. They traveled for another hour or so before finding a spot to camp for the night. That night, Neothil, some of her backstory came into the equation. She had a dream of someone she does not know. For the sake of
Sorta.
for the sake of convenience here and ease of reference, as Neothil is based off of Little Wing from Soaring on Little Wings, like it's pretty much a 1-for-1 thing here, except some elements of the backstory are different, and I have control of Penumbra. We'll be calling this lady Penumbra for the time being, even though that's not really her name. So Neothil spotted Penumbra, quote-unquote, amidst this field of golden stars. They tried to interact, but just weren't quite able to. And just as they were able to make a connection and start communicating, Neothil woke up. She was extremely frustrated by this. Kind of gave the rest of the group the cold shoulder for the whole morning.
Frustrated is an understatement.
Yeah, well, they moved on from there, continuing to follow the remaining cultists who had managed to get away from the High Snogwin when it had attacked their wagon, followed the tracks for a time, and eventually came to a bridge that crosses the river that the cultists were hoping to dunk the contents of their barrels in. It's worth noting, I forgot to mention this. When they came upon the barrels and the turned-over wagon with the High Snogwin, they looked into the barrels and discovered the contents were a bunch of severed limbs that carried the plague in them. So it became pretty obvious the cultists were planning on dumping the infected material into the river and letting the water carry it down into the drinking supply of the city. And since this is one of those rivers that feeds into the ocean, it would probably infect a lot of fish too. But anyways,
I burned it all.
Yep. Thanatos made use of a Thanatos made use of a rudimentary fire spell to destroy all of this and get rid of it so that it wouldn't be an issue. The party then continued on their way, and they found the bridge crossing the river, and as they were crossing, they saw one last barrel of the stuff on the other side, looking like it was in the process of being ready to be dunked into the water, just kind of set aside. As Neothil was passing over the bridge, not even waiting for anyone else to be cautious, she spotted off to the side some shitty little cultist archer trying to be sneaky and shoot her. She spotted him and shot him first.
The ball went straight through his arrow and split it in half.
Well, it passed by it. It didn't split his arrow. It shot right by it.
You said it split.
No, I didn't. I did not. I said it went right by his arrow and along his arm.
Oh, just let him have it, Tom.
No. You're not Robin Hood yet.
Confirm.
The footage will confirm
You're
I am
Robin Hood.
Anyways.
Denied.
So a fight breaks out in which a cultist archer, a cultist mage, and 2 cultist strikers, melee fighters, engaged with the party, and it kind of goes back and forth for a bit. There's a lot of cool moments there, especially with Neothil still kind of in her frustrated and angry state. At one point, after she fired off her shot, guy prepares to fire back, and she tells him he'd better make that shot count. He lets his arrow loose. It only gets her in the hip. So, following that, she puts away her crossbow, makes a running jump off of the bridge, off of the barrel, off of a rock, and plunges a dagger that she had gotten back in session 2 into this guy's chest, making him stumble back while telling him that she had told him he should have made that shot count. He then proceeded to try and punch her, and he succeeded, gave her a nosebleed, so she then proceeded to hold her dagger in such a way that the blade was sticking out between her middle and ring fingers, and then punched him right back and killed him in the face. And while that was happening, Thanatos got a spell ready and vaporized the enemy mage who had tried and failed to poison Neothil after just kind of giving Rocket, the group's chocobo, a little electric shock. He was trying to hurt her a lot more, but he rolled shit on his damage, so.
I burned him dead.
Yeah, and this was in a roll where Rocket was meant to take double damage, and he rolled a 3.
50% extra, not 100% extra.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
We were all super worried. It was just gonna like do a shit ton of damage, and it's like, bzz. What was that?
like the
sticking on end.
Yeah, like her OS glitched for a second, but that was about it.
It's like when you touch one of those like electric balls and nothing happens, but your hair sticks on end. That's all that happened to a ball.
I could imagine that.
Following that, the group proceeded to fight the rest of the cultists, and one of them they let go after breaking his jaw and his spirit, and the last one had his nose shoved up into his frontal lobe, and he kind of he died from that, just bled out, and yeah.
Freaking darkness, just
brutality.
This is the paladin who gets feisty when he's fighting. It's
low.
Yeah.
When his friends get hurt, he gets angry.
Duly noted. Anyways, so, following that, the group proceeded to take a minute, cool down, relax a bit, and Neothil sort of started to come down from her frustration high that she'd had from her interrupted dream, and the limited contact she'd made but no answers gotten. Kind of sat down on the bridge, just kind of had a little chat with Thanatos while Alistair tended to Rocket's injuries, because she did get a little roughed up in that fight. The two strikers kind of ganged up on her. They were hoping to take down the big bird that was reputed among their number to be one of the biggest threats, because it can kick you and pop your nuts, all right?
Yep, and I didn't allow it, so I had to pack her up.
Yeah. So while Alistair was tending to Rocket's injuries and healing her up and whatnot, and they were moving the barrel further away from the water so they could appropriately dispose of it, Thanatos and Neothil just took a little while and talked about things, shared a little bit about their backstories, and yeah. And we ended with them burning that last barrel of human goosh. And human goosh. And yeah, that was the end of session 4. It was largely a lot of fighting, but there were still some great character moments in there too. And these guys, and all, like, everyone here who was part of it, Lumina's not here sadly, but like all the other players were just so happy with it. Like, we were talking just about the session and reminiscing on it 30 minutes after we had finished before we all decided to come here.
Yeah, because it was that great.
Yeah,
and still throwing salt at town.
I mean, but I will say one thing that's the most surprising. I was expecting to hear an entire story of your creation, not to face it in battle. So good job, good sir.
I love how I was the one that was groaning the most about it, and I'm the one that ended up both killing it and doing so by fucking impaling the
And I was making sure it was just dead, just kept poking and kicking it.
I'm biased to love this session because I got to freaking live out whatever the hell Brian's going to be doing with this version of Little Wing. I
have plans, man. I've got plans.
I bet you do. Still looking up for Misty Gus. But yeah, I was not expecting, because I already, in session 1, I'd already made, just to set the stage, I'd already made an inquiry with the White Mage in Marasu about the void of like yellow stars. He said I need like what, purple mages, was it?
Blue mage. He directed you to do a blue mage.
Yeah. So I thought like, I'm not going to get anything more related to this until we get out of Marasu, sort this plague shit out and find a blue mage. Nope.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
I mean, you
she couldn't wait.
How rare is an actual blue mage?
Well, you see, I'd ask you to make a lore history check, but we're not in game. So,
So yes, out of context
Yes, the
for something like that, how rare is it to actually run into a blue mage
yeah, out of
that
character,
actually knows what they're doing?
out of character, blue mages are pretty rare, and it's especially rare for one to actually teach someone their craft directly, because blue magic is kind of a wild card in the sense that to learn blue magic, first you have to be hit by it. Blue mages learn their spells by getting hit by monsters and enemy attacks, and then
I mean,
learn-
we have a blue mage dog.
yeah, they learn.
Oh God!
Yeah, they learn how to recreate those attacks and send them right back at their enemies. So like, blue mages are notoriously rare because most who try to train to become blue mages die in the process of their training, and those who survive are typically insane because they've had to subject themselves to some of the worst pain imaginable just to get more powerful.
That was a great callback, Tom.
If the blue mage
that
turned
dog.
out to be Misty, I would fucking love you forever.
You see, there's what he could do.
Well, you see,
Fucking Misty Ghost does-
I can't do that.
I know, you've already got plans for that. I'm keeping an eye out.
Not open enough.
Let's see, Misty Gus will show up at one point.
Is it that girl?
What?
Is it that girl that's apprenticed to the dude?
No,
Nah,
that's too
I
easy.
can't even tell you technically because that
He just said not open enough, so that suggests that we've already run into her.
No, that's too soon.
Let's just keep it a surprise.
I'll let all of you be the judge of that.
Let's see, it's
He
too
literally
soon
just
and it's
said
too
not
easy.
open enough, and I've already suspected that the bookish girl who seems to share her voice, at least to some extent.
Well, actually,
Only-
Mika sounds more like Twilight. I gave
Yeah,
Misty more of a
voice is
Fluttershy-esque voice, of a bit more outspoken and not quite as high pitched.
I'm saying you just said not open enough, and I already was wondering, and she's literally the only candidate that could be, because she's the only female white mage, even in training, that we've met.
I say, Tom, it's too soon to think about that, and it's too easy. He would never let it be that
Yeah,
easy.
I was wondering, but not then.
Well, I mean, it's Tom's journey to go on for his a true love, so how he proceeds is up to him. If he winds up grabbing the wrong fish out of the bucket, that's his problem.
Oh,
Probably isn't it? Because honestly, if I know you mentioned her potentially being a white mage, but she's an apprentice, while a Misty Gus would be a librarian of some sort, because that's her whole thing.
Oh,
So-
I'll tell you. When it comes to that point, there will be no end to the teasing. Mm-mm.
Oh.
But yeah, I was wondering about Mika, but she's not. While she's an apprentice, she's not a librarian or anything like that. So I highly doubt it, because that being like a librarian and around books and sorting them, and it's kind of Misty's whole shtick. That's what she does.
Yeah.
She is second book horse.
Yes.
It'll be interesting.
Indeed.
Mm.
But yeah.
And I'm sure you'll break my heart and do something dickish with Penumbra.
You have no idea.
I'd say
Like right now, my theories are either like she's related to Neophil in some way, or she's going to be an antagonist, and one way or another, she's the reason she ended up in a freaking box in an alley.
She's gonna
Obviously,
be-
that's-
No idea.
no. He's actually
Power of the dark side.
no. He's actually gonna go for the whole Penumbra is mom. There will be no getting away from it this time.
So when you were away, Hades was inquiring when Rania and Skylar were going to turn up.
I mean, when are you guys going to Old Vatea?
Oh,
Well, how
but they
far? How
I
far
told him that
away
it's whenever
from-
you would decide they turn up, because honestly, they don't need to be in Overtea. They're Rangers. They do what the fuck they want.
They're part of the Rangers of Old Vatea are a part of the military there, and right now they're not at any wars, so they're probably still in Vatea.
Well, how far away from Batea are we right now?
You can see on the map.
You're on
Decently far.
you're on the other side of the map. Vatea's on the southern side, more or less. You're on the northern side.
So you see, I doubt it's going to be anytime soon.
Yeah, it's as I said
like, it
to
was
you
a-
earlier,
like-
it's whenever Brian decides.
Yeah, it was a couple months trip to get to Marasu from Vatea by boat. So
And I'm sure if they do show it one day, it's going to be by Rania doing something suitably embarrassed little wing dash Theophil.
we'll see.
I I could see it now. The big sisters just coming in and just.
I could just imagine Neophil walking into some kind of trap that strings her up into a tree upside down, and when Ronnie come around the tree going, "Hey, Squirt."
Hey, Squirt.
I'm probably not going to give Rania Rainbow Dash's voice, even though that's the character she's based on.
Aw, why not?
Well, because she's not Rainbow Dash. She's based off of her, kinda, but she's not.
So does that mean no Scootaloo voice?
You gotta give it at least, even if it's a different voice, you gotta give it at least some of the same inflections because the personality is based off.
We'll see what happens.
Oh my.
Time will tell.
Time will tell what bastardly plans this asshole has for us.
We'll see.
Oh, come on.
I still actually really
What's
like
the worst he could do?
knowing how the dynamics work, but not knowing the full story behind it is refreshing for this character.
You missed writing Little Wing. Now you're living Little Wing.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Sequel.
She literally saw spoilers alert for anyone. 3, 2, 1. She fucking died in the end.
Did.
She lives again in another life.
Nah.
Yeah, Penumbra's done with that.
Aww. Maybe like
also,
a
it
little...
was Little Wing was happy at the end. I haven't doing.
What about a one-off with her kids?
That has crossed my mind at some point. I will admit, like that intermittent period.
Yeah.
See, that's probably not going to happen. But if hypothetically it would happen, the protagonist would be like that first child,
Little Gale.
Little Gale.
I know that name off the top of my head. One, because I've had to read it like a dozen times when I was wrapping that story up, and two, well, because I helped you come up with it.
Yeah.
That's just little in every single name down her family line.
And a different name and a different one for Gust. Gale.
Yeah. I mean, like I mean, you came to me asking for help with that, and we talked about it. It was like, just go with Little Gust, or Little Gale. Excuse me. Sounds more like a boy name than Gust, but it's still a hybridization of the parents. So there you go.
Yes.
Nice.
Hey-o.
Even though one of the parents is technically Silver Breeze, but still Breeze Gale.
I remember that line. You want me to what?
This is the worst thing anyone's ever asked me.
Hey, can you jerk off into a cup and give it to us?
I'm not sure that's how it works.
Oh, it's definitely not, but I have no clue how it works. So.
I don't want to know how it works.
It's probably like it's like in vitro tubes or something.
No.
Let's say let's not get into.
I loved how in that chapter some of the people in the comments like, this is confirmed playhead canon that they're going to be a herd. That's not quite how it works.
That's not how it works.
That's not quite the dynamic there.
No.
But
No.
I think that pretty much covers it for our FFD6 recap.
Yeah.
Kind of got a little off topic there for a bit, but we managed to make it go for 30 minutes.
It sounds
Wow.
like you got a bit of a distance. You gotta be quiet.
Oh yeah, it's because I wasn't talking directly into my mic because I was leaning around it so I could use my mouse.
Okay.
Let's see here. Next topic. This is one that Crow suggested, and I just labeled it as stories about getting hurt. Because apparently...
Go forth, Crow. Tell us of your story.
Like, he has an example of how one time he got hurt and miraculously survived a thing. I've got a few I could talk about. I think we've all got a few times about this weird things either us or people around us got hurt that in retrospect are either interesting or downright amusing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if it's amusing, but I broke my nose once.
Oh,
you also have a wandering kneecap, as I recall.
Yeah. Well, since I've started, I might as well fucking go. Alright, so, if I want to just list off the times I've got hurt. One, I do have a kneecap that my left kneecap doesn't sit in the bloody socket properly. The socket's a bit shallow. The first time, actually, I think there was a time I discovered this a long time ago, though it wasn't we didn't realize what it was at the time. Like when I was in primary school, at one point I was running along, I felt my knee seemed to go weird, and then I fell over and I was screaming and in pain for a while, and I didn't know what it was. I was fine later, but it did. But now looking back on it, I realized it was probably my knee jolting out and then back in again. That's happened a few times since then, and since I was like 7 at the time, it feels worse than it would be now. But when I first actually discovered it, it was just at my family home with my mother and my father. I was still in high school at this point, my last year. I was just in the living room, leaning against the wall, just kind of watching TV, chatting to my mum. My stepfather comes behind me, decides that he's going to be funny and kick me in the back of the joint, my knee, and knock me to the ground. It didn't end well because immediately my knee was had swiveled around to the back of my fucking leg.
Yes. Oh. Yeah, his kneecap don't work.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hurt. So luckily I didn't go to hospital this time because my stepdad kind of moved it back into place, and then I had a brace on it for a couple of days, and then I was fine. We wondered if this was we didn't know this was going to be a thing at this point. We just thought, oh, it was a one-off because my stepdad's a dick. But, oh well. So, 2 weeks later, or whatever, PE, physical education, is going on in my class. This is at the beginning of the last year, by the way. It's just basic fitness stuff. So I'm doing push-ups. It's not something I'm particularly great at. I'm not the fittest guy in the world, but I can do some. So I go to do it. As I'm lowering myself down for the second one, my knee touches the ground. I feel a jolt, and all of a sudden I'm on my back. Look at my knee, and it's half jutting out. You can see the skin morphing around it. It hasn't just traveled around my leg. It's half the cap is just sticking out, almost like it wants to break through my skin.
Yeah.
It's the first time this happened, because I'm still in high school, I fucking was shouting. I was like, fuck, because it hurt. I wasn't expecting. I didn't know what's going on. This time, because it happened before, I kind of just looked at it with wide eyes, looked to the teacher with a look that said help, and then that was kind of it. At this point, because it was school policy, they called an ambulance. So I went to hospital to get x-ray and stuff. I managed to pop it back in myself this time because it wasn't fully round. I kind of tapped it and it went in. This is where I found out about that the socket is shallow, and that after this point, for the rest of that final year, I was banned from PE because it was health and safety reasons. So I didn't have to do an entire class for a year. So it was great. Except for table tennis, because table tennis doesn't require legs, but that's fine because I like table tennis.
The
next time it happened was rather recent. I think, was there another time? I'm trying to think. Well, no, I don't think there was. The next time happened. Actually, I swear there's another time. I'm trying to think now. Fuck, I've forgotten.
Well, you give it some thought, and I
don't think.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, shit. If I knew we were doing pain stories, I would have held that story from last time.
I think there might be 4. I don't remember the third time, but the fourth time was rather recently. I was doing LARPing. We were there was a big battle going on between just a bunch of NPCs, and we were playing freaking the Vegan, or essentially Vikings, Nords, or whatever. There was a fight going on, and just randomly, I swear I just twisted wrong, because all of a sudden it just went again. I was on the ground, this time it had gone back around again. And so, once again, because I was used to fuck's sake. All right, you put it back in, please. Some of the restaurants want to call it an ambulance, but because anybody is no, don't bother. Just you're certified to do medical attention. Just stick it back in, which he does, and I'm then I'm then stuck on a cart, and they drag me off the field with all the other players just cheering me on the sidelines.
I bet that was embarrassing.
Nah, it was awesome. More hero. And I spend the rest of the day just in the shade on the sidelines with some drinks and watch the fight go on. I almost had it happen again rather recently when my brother decided to kick me in the back of the leg like the first time, but luckily I was wearing very tight-fitting jeans that forced it to stay in place. Like, as for the time I broke my nose, this was in primary school. This was in year 3, so I was young. Like, to year 3, that'd be 3rd grade for you Americans.
Something I have no experience with.
Yeah,
but I was homeschooled in 3rd grade.
But yeah, so I was like 6 or something. But I was in the playground. It was lunch. It was lunchtime. Kids around playing. I was running around doing kid stuff. At some point, I was just running across the large concrete like football pitch that was in the middle. Like it was surrounded by field. As I was running across there, some little piece of shit, who was my friend back then, but he's still a little piece of shit, decided it'll be funny to stick his leg out. As I was running, I tripped on that leg as I passed and went face first into the concrete. When I raise up, my face is covered in blood. Like absolutely caked. Like I put my entire hand on my face to feel it. I take it away, it's just soaked in blood. Like it's pouring. My nose is fucked. So obviously I go to a trip to A&E after that. That playground had a history of accidents. There was another time like a school bully hit another kid with a freaking plastic hoop and it cracked his head open. There was literally a pull up like a river of blood going down the asphalt.
I thought the UK was nice.
Well, the school was good, but it just the thing that happened to me was an accident. Like my friend was super freaking apologetic about it. Obviously, he was crying and shit because we were 6 and he didn't mean to hurt me that badly. The other kid was, never came back to school again after doing that.
Of course, and I can think of a few times where I've gotten hurt in ways that, in retrospect, I totally deserved. One time, a few years back, there's this kid who lived right up the hill from me that I knew. Like, I was significantly older than he was, but, like, we got along well as long as there wasn't another one of the kids in the neighborhood. Like, as long as it was a one-on-one, we would get along just fine. If another kid got involved, though, it kind of devolved rapidly for whatever reason. I don't know. One of those kids was just kind of a little shit when he was with other people. But this particular kid, we got along fine. One time we had snow, and he invited me to one of the local schoolyards, which is currently closed because of said snow, to do some, like, makeshift sledding on these red boards down the big hill in the playground yard. I agreed. We went. And he sort of showed it off first. And, he made it quite clear, don't start at the very top of the hill. Now, see, here's the thing. I was several years older than this kid. I was an arrogant, full of myself piece of shit. I thought, well, I mean, I'm older than this kid is. I can probably handle it. And, I mean, to be fair, I wasn't totally wrong on that, but I made some miscalculations in my angle of descent. And, of course, I started at the very top of the hill. I got one slide. One. And at the end of which, I wound up sliding under a deck. It's a good thing I leaned my head back, or I probably would have lost my head. But my leg got caught on one of the support beams.
Ow.
Yeah, it hurt. It hurt. I couldn't stand. It was pretty bad. I was able to like crawl out and out into the snow, flop onto my back, and then I just screamed for a while. There wasn't really much else I could do. I could barely use that leg, so I was taken back home. And as we were going back, I was like, I'm such an idiot. I'm such an idiot. I'm such an idiot. Why did I not trust a person who's done this before? Anyway, so we got back to my house, and I pretty much spent the whole rest of that day just sitting in a chair with a bunch of ice packs on my leg. And for literally a few weeks, I had a limp. For a month at least, I hobbled as I walked, and for several months, I had pain in that leg every time I put weight on it. I fucked my leg up pretty bad with that. There was another time when I was much younger. I don't even know how old I was. I was tiny. But I was walking on top of like the sort of like brick half wall that kind of separates the yard of the town's courthouse from the sidewalk. You know, it was like grass on one side and just a sheer drop to the sidewalk on the other. I was walking on that, just trying to maintain my balance. Yeah, and I lost my balance and I fell to the sidewalk. And, well, needless to say, I was a tiny kid, I was screaming and crying, and my face was bleeding in a bunch of places. Mom had to take me into the Safeway across the street and into the bathroom to clean me up. Not pleasant, but I can't really give many more details of that one because I was tiny. All I really know for sure is that apparently when I fell, I made the mistake of thinking that I had somehow flown around the entire planet. That's how my little brain interpreted it, because, like, when I finally started calming, I was like, "Did I fly around the world?" No, son. No, you did not.
No, you did not. You fucked yourself up pretty good.
Yeah. And there's another time. This one didn't happen to me. It happened to my mom. And it was relatively recent. It was only a house ago. I like the fact that I can measure time by how many houses I've lived in. But, yeah. Yeah, this was a house ago, so a couple years. My mom had gone off to the foot doctor to have something looked at, and, you know, she walked down there, and it all seemed to be fine. Everything checked out, so she started walking back. Just, like, a few blocks away from the house, though, she, like, goes to step around a puddle, because we live in the Pacific Northwest. If you like sunlight, tough shit. You're probably gonna get rain in about 5 minutes if you live in the Pacific Northwest. But so yeah, so she goes to step around a puddle, and just one of the bones in the foot that she put the weight on, suddenly broke out of fucking nowhere. Just a foot broke. Dropped something.
Oh, the fucking agonizing pain.
Why do you keep dropping shit, Tom?
Because I keep having to hold shit. I'm a fidget guy, alright? Now then. But, yeah. Mom, and normally if it had just been she'd broken her foot, that wouldn't have been cause for me to laugh my ass off. What made me laugh my ass off was the fact that she broke her foot just after leaving the foot doctor. Yeah, see? It was the irony. The irony made me laugh. And, you know, the fact the foot doctor was still open, so she was able to go back before he closed and got it all taken care of for like a fifth of what an ER would have charged. So, so she got a lucky break there. She had a walking she had a walking boot for a while. Everything was fine. I had every right to start laughing hysterically at that because she had gone to a foot doctor to get her foot checked out, and only after she leaves does it get fucked up. You can't make that shit up. It is too perfect.
I have like so my story requires a little context. So for the most of my life I walk everywhere I go. We don't have a car, so I walk across still. And there's a public library about 3 blocks away from where I live, and so I walk to it almost every day still. And there's a street that you got to cross. Well, I got used to crossing that street like forever and ever. And then one day when I was walking home from the library and I crossed that street, I got hit by a car. And the next thing I know is I'm flipped in the air, spinning, and I hit the curb.
Ouch.
Yeah. I did. The miracle thing was nothing broke. That was the miracle part.
How in the absolute fuck did you not break anything?
I have no idea. Although my leg felt like shit and I had a huge black bruise on the hip.
Well, there's probably a bruise on the bone. God damn it.
Yeah, that was ill. And the lady, she felt bad. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Yeah." And it's like, "Can you just give me a ride home?" Because,
Give me a ride home and we'll call it even.
Yeah, because my fucking leg hurts like shit right now.
and the lady felt so bad for them. And then I had several friends go, "Why didn't you sue?" And I go, "Why the hell would I sue her when it's my own fuck up? I should have just paid attention to the street when I crossed it."
Yeah, this is why you look both ways, like Mama always says.
Yeah.
Look both
And,
ways before you cross the street, children.
Oh, my leg was stiff as shit.
Again.
It was hard to walk on it for about 3 weeks. I couldn't walk on it very well.
Yeah, because it's probably bruised, like, internally.
And yeah, so that was an experience.
Yeah.
Another time, I was much younger. I was about 11, 12-ish, around there. We lived in a trailer park, Dill, and it was on a steep inclined hill. And the road was not very well paved, if you would even call it paved. And so my friend gets the bright idea, we're going to ride our scooters from the top of the hill all the way down. And I was like, okay. So he goes down, everything's fine. And he gets to the bottom down, so it comes my turn. And so I go down, and for the first half of it, everything's going great. I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. Then I know, okay, I need to start slowing down. So I hit the small brake at the back of the scooter. And that's when everything started going to shit from there. Scooter flies straight out underneath my feet. I go flying about 5-10 feet, and then I skid across the road, and then I come to the stop.
You know, you really are a crow. You sure love to fly.
Oh! Shots fired!
Jeez.
Shots fired!
I picked myself up. My elbows are skinned to shit, and I'm laughing my head off. Because in my brain, I'm going, that was amazing.
Fucking flying into the freaking shit.
To be fair, there's a number of times I laughed at my own pain.
Oh my god.
And then,
Adrenaline, it does weird things to a man.
imagine my mom's surprise when I come home and I'm like smiling, showing her my skinned elbows. She's like, what happened?
You know,
And
that actually reminds me of another time that I got hurt not all that long ago where it was like summer or something, like it was the height of summer, so like sidewalks were really fucking hot, right? And I was getting ready to record that day, but I was still kind of groggy from waking up, and I figured, you know what the hell, I'll go and I'll take a walk and wake myself up a bit. I made it about a block up from where I am now, about a block up the hill. And then as I was about to step up onto the next sidewalk, stepping up the curb, I miscalculated the distance. My toe, the toe of my shoe, caught on the curb. I fall forward and I catch myself before I hit the ground. There's a moment of silence, and I just feel my hands burning. So I pick myself back up off of the sidewalk upon which you could maybe start to cook an egg. Not really full force, but start at least. Stand up, look at my hands, and they are scraped up to shit, bleeding in a few spots, and they're really fucking hot. I couldn't help but start laughing at that because I was wide awake now. I left my house to wake myself up. This wasn't how I planned on doing it, but fuck it. I was going to take what I was going to get. I went home, I cleaned off my hands, I bandaged them, and I recorded the chapter for the day.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, I probably told you guys that story.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you told that story once or twice.
Yeah.
I remember the third time I got my knee popped.
Oh god.
I have yet to break a bone in my body.
Oh, I also
on
fractured
wood.
my arm.
I'm surprised I
The-
didn't break my bones yet.
My
And trust
dog,
me,
what
it's not like the world hasn't tried.
my dog, what they did to put my knee. One day, like 1 week, my parents had gone on holiday. This 2 years ago now. I was home for the week, just looking after them because obviously I was old enough by this point. It's only like 2 years ago. I'm 20 now, so so with them home for the week, I was like, we have 2 dogs indoors and 2 dogs outdoors in like a custom built run, dash kennel, whatever you want to call it. So I since I'm home alone, I'm in charge of feeding all of them every morning. One morning, towards the end of it, as usual, I get up early, get the bowls full of biscuit, head towards the run there. Had a look in, their big water trowel is still full. They've still got plenty of water. I head inside. I put down the food bowls. They start eating. I give them a bit of a fuss, the usual. Their food bowls from the day before. Like one of my dogs. Like I have the 2 dogs in here are a German Shepherd Shiler and a big Rottweiler called Marley. Marley has a weird habit that whenever he and Shiler are done eating, like he'll pick up the bowl and like a little like prance will go inside of like the indoor bit of the kennel and it will bury the bowls inside the hay.
Okay.
Like he looks so happy when he does it. He's prancing all the way. It's adorable, but weird. So I have to go and dig out the bowls. As I do so, like there's a very tiny door into this little like indoor area where they sleep. I go in there, I pick up the bowls. As I'm walking out, Marley comes bolting in for some reason, pushes past me, pushes my leg into the side of the door. My knee gets caught on it and is pushed right out. So I'm immediately on the fucking floor, slightly panicking because those 2 dogs don't seem to understand the concept of pain. Like they think I'm playing at this point. Despite the fact that so they're fucking jumping on me now, like thinking that I'm wanting to play. So I have to tell them I'm telling them to fuck off. I have to drag myself out of the kennel with a knee currently out, so that leg's out of commission. Open the gate and get out without letting them out. At which point I push it back in myself because there's no one around to help me. And basically, I still can't walk at this point, so I managed to drag myself indoors to the phone, ring up my brother. Yeah, I can't walk, I'm fucked. Can you come help me?
Did you say it just like that?
More or less, just in slightly longer words of, I'm fucking hurt.
I'm fucking hurt.
I stick the brace on myself. He comes, he does the rest of the chores for the day, and then I go back with him to his house and spend the rest of the day there while I'm recovering. I'm figuring out how to walk again. So that was the 3rd time that happened. It hasn't happened since the 4th. Yeah, I'm sure it will again. Now, the time I fractured my arm.
Jesus Christ, man. You've gotten more injuries than I have.
I mean, the nose. I mean, I broke my nose once. It's just the knee stuff 4 times, and then
I have never had.
arm, so...
I've never had a broken bone. The closest I've ever had. The closest I've ever had to that was that one time when my kneecap briefly became dislocated, and that was because I deliberately pushed it.
How sometimes when I'm walking, it can jolt but not go out, and I kind of stumble a minute and then just continue on. Like,
my theory is he's paying for all the bones we didn't break.
I wouldn't have this problem if I didn't have a slightly malformed kneecap, but it's fine because I have a brace for it. Like a little elastic kind of brace for it, which I sometimes wear when I'm doing a thing particularly like energetic. So it's fine. It's not going to affect anything. But yeah, the time I broke my arm, like, aside from the common kneecaps, all the 2 times I hurt myself were both in primary school. Obviously, there was the year 3, 3rd grade incident where I broke my nose, and then there was an incident in year 6, aka 6th grade, the year before entering high school, where I was sitting at the bottom of a slide that was in the playground. I was just sitting there chatting to another friend, who, by the way, was quite big. Like he was a big lad. So he was heavy. Decided while I'm sitting on the bottom of the slide that it would be a good idea to make a running jump down the slide with me in the way. Obviously, he goes straight into my arm. I go flying. I'm not kidding. I get air from this. I then land maybe around the bottom beneath the slide is concrete on that same arm. So it takes the full brunt of the impact. At which point, it's not fully broken, but it's fractured. It's fucked. So at this point, because once again I'm not even a teenager yet, I'm a kid. I'm fucking screaming. Like this is
as you do.
Yeah, this is like one of the worst pain I've ever felt beyond breaking my nose a few years earlier. So the teachers hear the noise. They come running out. They call my parents, who then take me to A&E. When they put my arm in like a cast for the next couple of weeks, just until everything's healed up and I can move it all again. And all this during these next 2 weeks, we have a school play.
Oh.
That I then have to perform with a cast on my arm.
Were you able to write it into the script why your character had his arm in a cast?
This is a school play. They don't think that far ahead.
Did you ad-lib anything for that then?
No. It was a school play. Like, I was just a kid with a part. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, so that was just slightly awkward. And that's my whole list of injuries that I remember.
Well, I mean...
Aside from one time, that doesn't really count as an injury, but on my 10th birthday, I got a bike. I rode it into a pole. I went into the pole nut first.
Oh. That reminds me, there's one little story I kind of want to tell that doesn't involve anyone getting hurt before this episode ends. Like, we've got like 3 minutes, so I'll make this snappy. When I was... Okay, so everyone, of course, has had their first birthday, right? They turned a year old. No one really remembers their first birthday because they were 1 year old. They hadn't attained self-awareness yet, most likely. Well, for me, that is untrue. I had my first birthday when I was 10.
What?
Allow me to explain.
Okay.
See, when I turned 1 year old, I suddenly came down with some sort of horrible sickness. It was like a flu or something. And I straight up had to go off of physical foods for a while. I was back on formula for a while because I would not eat anything else. It fucked with me. I blamed that whole sickness for why I'm such a picky eater. It's the only thing that makes sense. Yeah, it screwed with a lot of me. We pretty much the whole family just bypassed the whole party side of the celebration. Like, I still had my presents and whatnot, but like the celebratory side of it was bypassed entirely because, well, I mean, I was sick as hell. What were they gonna do? Sing a sad birthday song? No, they were gonna get me medical help. So I didn't really have a first birthday party. I just had a few presents and then they took care of me medically for a while. I learned about this when I was 10. I heard the story that I had not had a first birthday party, and because I was 10 and I had ADHD and Asperger's, this made me feel sad because I missed out on having a first birthday even though I couldn't fucking remember it.
So it really didn't matter.
So I mentioned this when this topic came, like, I've never had a first birthday? Well, no. I'm sad. Something to that effect.
I love how that's in Rainbow's.
No, this is Rainbow's voice, much more scratchy. But anyways, yeah, it was just, I'm just sad, and I kind of was. I was genuinely disappointed. So imagine my surprise when the family decides, yeah, sure, let's just throw you a first birthday party when you're 10. I was like, wait, what, really? Because in my small, mentally broken mind, that just meant, ooh, free birthday party. I don't have to wait. So there weren't any presents because it wasn't my actual birthday, but there was cake, there was a song, and there was just happy shit in general. And yeah, it's kind of heartwarming looking back, except for the fact that I was just being a greedy little shit about it because ooh, free birthday. But yeah. That
was nice to your parents, but let's be honest, any kid would be like, yes, give me now.
Yeah, I think they anticipated that, which is why they didn't get me any presents at that time. I already had my first birthday presents when I was 1 year old. But
Don't push it, kiddo.
But yeah, with that wholesome story concluded, it is time for us to end this episode of Jibber Jabber. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you.
I have an announcement.
Does it really matter to Jibber Jabber or the people who listen to it? Is it relevant? Because we're over an hour.
Well,
it's time to end.
Well, not really. It's just my birthday's going to be in 3 days.
Oh, well, happy early birthday then.
Happy early birthday, buddy.
That's not really relevant to Jibber Jabber. All right. All right, so allow me to try this shit again. Thank you. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Jibber Jabber, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Until then, keep listening, people. Bye-bye.
Ta-ra.
Bye.
The shipmaster is stupid.